All right, what is going on, Notre Dame football fans? I'm Tyler Horka. That's Jack Sobel. We are here on campus at Notre Dame where the Fighting Irish football team just practiced for the ninth time this spring, all leading up to April 20th's blue-gold game. And in the last month or so, Jack, I've been getting questions from our loyal subscriber base at Blue and Gold Illustrated. Who's really standing out? Who's sticking out? Who's kind of taken that next leap? I think we got a little bit of an answer on that today, and there's a guy that you want to talk about.
Yeah, again, today in practice, I thought Jaylen Sneed really stood out. We really only saw individual drills, but he's popping the pads. Max Bulla, the linebackers coach, is holding. He looks faster. He definitely looks stronger. We haven't seen a lot of team, and the Sneed's thing, the point Sneed needs to improve on has always been the mental side. His instincts, making the right reads. Talked to Max Bulla today in practice, and Max Bulla said in that regard and everything else, like, Sneed's probably the most improved guy from the winter, the Sun Bowl, to the spring in his room, and that really tracks, Tyler, with what we've seen in practice. I mean, Sneed looks good, and that's a big boost for the Notre Dame defense because even though Sneed might not start in that nickel base right now, it's Jack Kaiser at will and Drake Bowen at Mike. Sneed's going to play in the base at Rover. He's going to play as a rusher on third down. Last season, Al Golden talked about Sneed as a guy who could either rush from anywhere or drop into coverage on third downs. Really, they only use him as a rusher because I don't think his coverage ability was there yet. If it's there, that's a lot of reps between third down and the base package. That's probably 20 or 30 reps a game, even if he's not technically a starter. And I think that's big for both Sneed because we went into the spring thinking might be now or never with him. It's now, I think, from what we've seen and heard so far in spring.
Yeah, that's huge because I think a lot of people do think that it's now or never for him. And look, it's not always absolutes like that. Like, I thought last year was a now or never season for Jordan Botelho, and here Jordan Botelho is, again, kind of in the same position where he's going to start at Viper, and is he going to get 4 sacks? Is he going to get 6? Is he going to get 8? Can he push for 10? He's, like, right in that area. You mentioned that you saw a pretty good day out of Jordan Botelho.
Yeah, I saw a good day out of Jordan Botelho. Again, we really only saw individual drills, but he had a rep in a drill where they were firing off the ball, looking to stay low. That defensive line coach Al Washington said was teach tape. They had a drill where Washington stood on a sled, and they were hitting the sled, popping the sled. When Botelho went, Washington was like, "Yeah, I felt that." So he's hitting hard. He looks good. He's one of those, assuming Benjamin Morrison's ready for the season, 6 returning starters on the defensive side of the ball, and it looks like he's going to maintain that role based on what we have seen in spring.
Yeah, a couple things I want to harp on that you mentioned real quickly. Want to get it across that we only saw the stretching periods today and 5-minute periods, which is a total of 25 minutes of pretty good work for these guys. I mean, I'll switch over to the offensive side of the ball now. What I saw in the 25 minutes, there was a portion of practice, I believe it was part of a period, maybe one full period, where the first team offense gathered and went down the field, 2-minute drill, tempo, on air. And once the second team offense, they probably started at the minus 35 and went down to the goal line. Once the second team got enough room, maybe say first team got across half or midfield, the second team got out there and went from the 35 and did the same thing. And then the third team. So offensively, I think the biggest takeaway was I got to see a 3 deep, really, and Riley Leonard is working out in that ankle brace again, just kind of throwing in individual periods, not doing a whole lot more of that than that. Although Gino Guidugli, quarterback's coach, we talked to him in the same capacity as Max Bulla after practice. He said that Riley Leonard was doing some 7-on-7 stuff today. So, again, you're not – there's no defenders in your face when you're doing that. Quarterback has all day to throw, but that is a good sign that he's taking at least some competitive reps. I would label that as a competitive rep. But without Riley Leonard in the fold, Steve Angeli was your starting quarterback. Kenny Minchie, second team. C.J. Carr, third team, when they were doing that drill that went down into the end zone. I'll give you guys some other personnel updates, first and second team mainly, because that's obviously what everyone is looking for. The offensive line is pretty standard across the board, what you would expect. Charles Jagasaw, left tackle. Pat Coogan, left guard. Ashton Craig, center. Billy Schrouth starting at right guard, I thought was interesting. Obviously, that was Rocco Spindler's spot last year, but he's been banged up with that knee injury, trying to come back from that. He's been pretty much full go this spring, but Schrouth has kind of he's competing there at that right guard position.
No,
I would say.
I would say Billy Strouth from what we've seen. I know I was watching the offense earlier in the spring. He's been that starting right guard throughout the duration of spring ball. I think he showed enough late in the season when Rocco Spindler went down with that MCL injury. He was kind of in spring ball last year. I wasn't here, but you were, and I believe Billy Strouth was starting at that left guard spot. I want to say Pat Coogan kind of beat him out there. He was a really major recruit. He was one of Marcus Freeman's first big gets after taking that head coaching job, and it looks like it might finally be happening for him as well.
Yeah, I think he's had a fantastic spring. I think we talked to him a little bit earlier this spring, or we talked to.
You did. I was second.
Yeah, we talked to Joe Rudolph at least, and I asked him a bunch about Billy Strouth, and he said it's a light bulb moment, kind of like Jaylen Sneed that you were talking about earlier, where maybe you don't have it in your first year of your career, maybe even in the second, but this is the third year of his career now, so it's time to kind of take off and compete for a starting job throughout the course of a season. I mentioned Rocco Spindler. He was the second-team left guard. Sullivan Absher was the second-team left tackle. Joe Otting was the center. Chris Tarrick was playing right guard. Sam Pendleton, I'm sorry. These numbers, I only have numbers in front of my face, and these guys have not played a lot of football in a Notre Dame uniform. So Sam Pendleton, the center, and then Emil Wagner, a guy that many think is probably your third tackle right now, trying to push for reps. As a starter, he was your second team right tackle. Wide receivers, I thought, is very interesting, and maybe you watched a lot of the offense early on in spring. These are your first team wide receivers, and I will make another note. Jaden Harrison did not practice today. He was in a pretty hefty boot on his left leg. I thought that was interesting. Jaden Thomas did not take part in most of the team periods. He went through individual drills, but was not an active participant in team. And then obviously Jordan Faison is playing lacrosse and playing lacrosse very well, so he was not an option. So this is what your first team wide receivers looked like without those guys in the mix. Micah Gilbert, Jaden Greathouse, Chris Mitchell, those are your first team. Second team, Deion Colsey, KK Smith, the sophomore who didn't play last year because of a shoulder injury, and Cam Williams, another true freshman. So too deep. Obviously, there's all those other options that are going to come. Bo Collins is going to come into the mix as well. But what do you make of Micah Gilbert and those other guys on the first team, wide receivers?
Yeah, with Micah Gilbert, I mean, that's really not a surprise. He looked really, really good throughout the beginning of spring. I assume we haven't really seen a lot of team stuff as much recently. But, Notre Dame posted that highlight reel of him. Yeah. He's been making plays. He really came in. He looks like, what you've told me that Jaden Greathouse, Rico Flores Jr. looked like last spring. I mean, he does not look like a freshman. He is advanced physically, I think, is probably the biggest thing with him. He can make catches through contact against some of these older defensive backs. He's probably more dynamic at this stage than a Deion Colsey, who, he's flashed when he's healthy, but his body has just let him down so much over the last few years. And if he's healthy, he'll still be a factor there. But the fact that Micah Gilbert's getting those first-team reps over him, I think, could be a prelude to what we might see in the fall.
Just rounding out the offense, Jadarian Price was the one running with the ones in that drill that I mentioned. Jeremiah Love, second-team running back. Eli Raridan, first-team tight end. Cooper Flanagan, second-team tight end. I think that is pretty standard. Last thing that I want to end with, quarterback talk is all the rage all the time. We talked to quarterbacks today. I think you spent a lot of time with Steve Angeli. I talked to Kenny Minchie. We both talked to Gino Guidugli. Just a few takeaways from the media session after practice.
Yeah, Steve Angeli was asked, kind of the elephant in the room, like, have you ever, been contacted through a back channel? And have you ever thought about transferring? I mean, it's a reasonable question. Like, he's in a position where a lot of guys would have gone, but his answer was good. I thought he said, just staying in the present with him right now. He's all Notre Dame right now. It's not even crossed his mind. In the future, you never know, given the situation at Notre Dame. But he has made some steps. Then, kind of Gino Guidugli was asked about Angeli and kind of when it clicked for him last season. He said about midway through fall camp, they saw just enough in spring ball to not get a transfer backup after Tyler Buckner left. Then in fall camp, with those increased reps, kind of the switch flipped for him, and he really showed that he was more than capable of being Sam Hartman's backup last year and capable of challenging for the starting job this year, especially with Riley Leonard out. That's what he's doing.
Yeah, and I spent most of my time with Minchie and then Guidugli, and It's funny, we kind of centered those conversations on a bit of the same talking point. Kenny Minchey's a gunslinger. That's what they're labeling him as. I think Jaden Greathouse might have said it last week when we talked to the wide receivers. That's interesting to me because I feel like we still don't know who Kenny Minchey is as a Notre Dame quarterback because, quite frankly, he's been the third stringer for as long as he's been here. And I get it. He's only a sophomore. This is his second spring. But you had Sam Hartman, you had Steve Angeli, and now Riley Leonard and Steve Angeli. But with Riley Leonard out, I think these guys are seeing a lot more of Kenny Minchey, and Greathouse called him a gunslinger. Guduli, unprompted, called him a gunslinger, and then Minchey spoke a little bit to it. What does that mean? Guduli said it best, I think. Minchey has never seen a pass that he doesn't like, so he's going to take some chances. I think a lot of Notre Dame fans like hearing that because they really haven't had the gunslinger at quarterback in quite some time. So I think this quarterback room, I've said it before, you'd probably agree with me, it's as good as it's been for across the board scholarship-wise in a really long time. So we will see what that means on Saturday when we get to watch a full practice at Notre Dame Stadium. Kind of a little bit of a blue goal game tease is what I would call it. We'll get to figure out what you guys are going to see on April 20th. So again, April 13th, stick to this channel, stick to blueandgold.com. We will have a lot from a full practice, not just your stretching in 25 minutes. We will have a full practice recap here at the YouTube channel and on blueandgold.com. So Tyler Horka, Jack Sobel, we will see you guys then.